Riley actively picks stocks and tries to beat the market. Sophia buys an S&P 500 index fund and never thinks about it again. They both think they made the smarter move. They're both wrong, because one of them forgot that information doesn't equal alpha, and the other forgot that markets reward patience over cleverness. And when you actually run the numbers over 30 years, the gap can be over $700,000. Let's keep this fair. Riley and Sophia are both 30 years old. Both have $50,000 to invest plus $500 a month they can keep adding for the next 30 years. They both want to maximize long-term wealth. The only difference is their strategy. Riley reads earnings reports, watches financial news, follows market analysts on YouTube, and uses a brokerage with low fees to actively pick individual stocks. He believes he can outperform the market because he's done his research. He sees patterns. He understands businesses. He has a watch list. Sophia opens a Vanguard account and buys VT, a total U.S. stock market index fund with an expense ratio of 0.03%. She sets up an automatic $500 monthly contribution. She doesn't check her account more than once a quarter. She has no opinions about Tesla, Apple, or whether the Fed will cut rates next month. On day one, Riley is excited. He spent hours analyzing companies. He just bought what he believes are the best 12 stocks for the next decade. Sophia is bored. She owns thousands of companies in a single ticker symbol. She's done. For the first year, Riley does pretty well. Some of his picks go up. He feels validated. Sophia's S&P 500 index also goes up by approximately the average return of the market, around 10%. Riley calculates his portfolio is up 12%. He's beating the market. Here's where the math starts to lie. The S&P 500 long-term average is 10% nominal annually. Sounds simple, but individual annual returns vary enormously. Some years up 25%. Some years down 30%. The 10% is an average across decades. Active stock pickers consistently underperform the index, but not by a small margin. The Vanguard Index Investing Study tracked retail investors actively trading individual stocks over a 20-year period. Average return, 5 to 7% annually, compared to the S&P 500's 10%. The DALBAR Quantitative Analysis of Investor Behavior, run annually for over 30 years, shows that the average retail equity investor underperforms the index by 3 to 4 percentage points per year, every year, on average. Morningstar's Mind the Gap study confirms similar findings. Investors in actively managed funds capture significantly less of the underlying fund's returns due to timing decisions buying high, selling low, panicking during downturns, chasing winners. And the S&P Dow Jones SPIVA report shows that over a 20-year period, more than 90% of actively managed equity mutual funds managed by professionals with full-time staff and PhDs in finance fail to beat the S&P 500. If professionals can't beat the index, what makes Riley think he can? Year 5 reality check. Riley logs into his account. His portfolio is up overall, but not as much as he expected. Some of his picks went up dramatically, meaning he's now overweight in those, increasing his risk. Some lost money. He sold a few losers early to cut losses and miss their subsequent rebounds. He held a few losers too long hoping they'd recover. He bought into a hot stock at $200 that's now $80. His 5-year annualized return, 6.2%. The S&P 500 over the same period, 9.8%. He's behind. He tells himself it's because of a few bad picks and he's learned. He'll do better in the next 5 years. Sophia hasn't checked her account in months. When she does, her S&P 500 index has compounded along with the market. 5 years of $500 a month contributions, plus the $50,000 starting amount, at the actual S&P return of 9.8%, leaves her with approximately $115,000. Riley, with his 6.2% return, has approximately $99,000. At year 5, Sophia is $16,000 ahead. She did less work and earned more. Here's what active picking advocates don't tell you. The skill that matters in stock picking isn't research, it's emotional discipline during market volatility. And humans are biologically wired to make the exact wrong decisions during market crashes and rallies. The amygdala drives sell decisions during 30% drops. FOMO drives buy decisions at market peaks. The structural disadvantage isn't lack of information, it's having a human brain. The bid-ask spreads and trading costs are real, even on free brokerages. Every transaction has a hidden cost. Active trading over 20 to 30 years adds up to 0.5% to 2% in friction costs. The tax drag is real. Every winning stock you sell generates a taxable event. Holding for less than a year means short-term capital gains taxed at ordinary income rates up to 37% federally. Holding longer means lower rates, but every sale and rebuy resets the holding period. Index investors who never sell pay no tax until they withdraw, sometimes decades later. The mental load is real. Active stock picking requires attention. Watching markets, reading news, evaluating positions. Over 30 years, that's thousands of hours of unpaid mental labor. Sophia spends 0 hours managing her index fund. And the survivorship bias is real. Every active investor you see on YouTube, Twitter, or financial media who is successful was selected from millions of investors. The ones who lost everything quietly disappeared. Statistical noise looks like skill when you only see the survivors. Year 15, check-in. Riley has had some good years and some terrible ones. He sold during the 2020 crash and bought back in 3 months later, locking in losses. He chased a few hot stocks that crashed. His 15-year annualized return, 5.8%. Sophia's index return, 9.6%. Riley's portfolio, approximately $185,000. Sophia's, approximately $321,000. The gap has grown to $136,000. Riley starts to think maybe he's been doing this wrong. He considers switching to index investing, but is also worried about admitting he wasted 15 years. Sunk cost fallacy. He decides to keep trying. If I only showed you the case against active investing, I'd be missing situations where it actually works. Active picking has narrow but real use cases. Specialized industry knowledge is real. If you genuinely work in an industry and understand competitive dynamics in a way the broader market doesn't, you can occasionally identify mispriced opportunities. This applies to maybe 1% of active investors honestly. Concentrated bets in early-stage growth companies can produce outsized returns if you happen to pick the right one. Amazon at IPO, Nvidia in 2015, Apple in 2003. The math on these is real. The probability of picking them in advance is roughly equivalent to picking the right number in roulette. Tax loss harvesting on individual positions is a legitimate strategy that index funds can't easily replicate. If you have significant taxable income, holding individual stocks lets you sell losers strategically to offset gains. And small cap and international exposure can theoretically generate excess returns versus large cap US indices, though research shows the actual realized gap has shrunk in recent decades. Active picking is the smarter move only if you have specialized expertise in a narrow industry, decades of time to dedicate to research, comfort with significantly higher volatility and risk, and you accept that 90% of active retail investors underperform indices and you're betting you're in the 10%. Index investing is the smarter move if you have a 20-plus year time horizon, you want to maximize after-tax compound returns, you have low to moderate financial sophistication, you want to spend your time on things other than investing, and you accept market average returns as the price of certainty about beating most active investors. Year 30, final comparison. Riley over 30 years averages 6.5% annual returns. Total contributions. $50,000 starting plus $180,000 in monthly deposits. Portfolio value, approximately $612,000. Sophia over 30 years averages 9.7% annual returns. Same total contributions of $230,000. Portfolio value, approximately $1,340,000. The gap is approximately $728,000. Riley worked harder, spent more time, took more emotional damage, paid more in trading costs and taxes, and ended up with less than half of Sophia's wealth. Over 30 years, the real trap isn't active picking or index investing. The real trap is believing that intelligence and effort beat patience and discipline in markets. They don't. Riley assumed his intelligence would create alpha. Sophia assumed markets reward time, not cleverness. The data is unambiguous about which assumption is correct. And if you're wondering what happens when you do something between the two, own an index for the core of your portfolio and use 5 to 10% for individual stock picks, that's the strategy most disciplined advisors actually recommend. And it limits your downside while satisfying the part of your brain that wants to play. But that's a completely different conversation. For now, the next time someone tells you they're beating the market, ask them one question. Are you measuring after taxes and trading costs against the S&P 500 over 10 plus years? Because the answer that includes both is the only answer that matters. And the data says, probably not.